Good evening. Welcome to New Direction Behavioral Health. My name is Ms. Key. I'm the Clinical Director at New Direction Behavioral Health. I'd like to go over some important papers that you'll need to fill out in order to be served at this agency. The very first paper that you should sign is the consent for treatment. At the top of this page, you'll need to write your name, last name first, and then your first name, and then put your social security number. Wherever it says client ID, that's always your social security. It gives us permission to treat you. It says that you have the right to be treated with dignity and respect, and that we will not discriminate against you for any reason. It also gives you the right to choose a different agency if you're not satisfied with your services here. I would ask, though, if you're not satisfied with any aspect of our program, that you contact me, Mrs. Key, at 442-7484. All right, that covers the consent for release of information. We hope that everybody is following along and has signed and dated the bottom of that page and has your name and social at the top. The next very important piece of information that you'll have to sign is the consent for release of information. That form gives us permission to release information to primarily the agency that referred you to us. So if you're from PTI, we ask that you would write PTI Charleston, Dorchester, or Berkeley, whichever agency sent you to us. If you're with probation, we ask you to put which county probation as well as your agent's name. So this form, the consent for release of information form, has a place for you to put your name and social at the top. Then it says I, and that's the space where you put your name. Gives our agency, New Direction, permission to release information to, that's where you put the referral agency. And you will have to sign and date on the bottom. The third piece of information that you'll need to sign and date and review is a payment agreement. This outlines all of our fees as they are outlined on the payment agreement. Each person should have paid $40 for today's initial assessment. That typically is $65, but since we do an initial intake in a group, we would only charge you $40. So everyone should have paid $40 today prior to watching this video. You'll need to sign and date the bottom as well as initial some very important pieces on that form. The first is you recognize that any and all absences will be $15. You don't need to call. You don't need to explain why you're absent. Each person in our program is allotted 2 absences. That means that you can be absent for any reason at any time twice. But each time that you are absent, you need to bring $15 with you to cover that absent fee the next time that you come to group services. There will be no exceptions made in regards to absences. So please don't call and ask for permission to be absent without the fee, because that's not going to happen. Also, you'll need to acknowledge that you need to pay all of your fees when you come to this agency. If you have half or more than half of your money, we will let you attend class, but there will be a $10 insufficient funds fee. I generally recommend that if you don't have all of your fees, it's less costly to just be absent than it is to accumulate a $10 fee on top of the already fees that you'll have to pay for the services. But that's each individual's choice. You'll also need to recognize on that form that after the 3rd absence, you will be terminated or discharged from our program unsuccessfully. We only allow 2 absences. Upon the 3rd absence, you will be terminated. We do not allow switching of groups. If you're absent for one of your groups, you cannot make that group up later in the week. So please don't call and ask for makeup groups if you happen to be absent. The payment agreement also outlines that you will have a discharge session. Each person is being seen as a part of a group. But when you're done, you'll have a discharge session. That session is also $40. That is separate from your groups. So on your last day, you'll need to bring in an extra $40 so that you can complete your discharge session. The discharge session is very important because it is at that time that you get your certificate of completion and your discharge report. We also fax that information over to the agency that referred you to us. They get a copy within 24 hours of your discharge, and you get a permanent copy for your records. You'll need to pay an additional $40 for that discharge session at that time. Also outlined in your payment agreement is the drug screen fee. Each drug screen is $25. You'll need to pay for that drug screen in advance, which means on your first session, you will have to pay an extra $25 for our office to keep on hold for your drug screen. When we randomly drug screen you, that is, surprise you with a drug screen, it'll already be paid for. So the week after your drug screen, you'll again need to bring in $25. Basically, you want to stay up front of your drug screens. Always pay for them in advance. The screening form is the other form that you'll need to fill out, and that gives us all of your demographics, your name, social, your address, telephone number, different things of that sort. And we do ask that you fill that out completely and entirely. Give us accurate phone numbers and cell phone numbers so that we may reach you. You also need to indicate on that screening form if you are taking any medications. We ask that you bring the original bottle in so that we can verify your medication along with what you wrote. Also on that form, it'll ask what you're being referred for. That's a place where you put what your charge is, whatever charge it is that has required you to come and take the classes with us today. So just briefly to review, you'll need to sign the consent for treatment. Okay, that gives us permission to treat you. Name and social at the top, sign and date the bottom. The consent for release of information, that gives us permission to release information to your referral source. Name and social at the top, your name on the next line, the agency that referred you to us on the third line, and then sign and date. And also the payment agreement. We need you to initial next to each space where it outlines one of our fees, and then sign and date. This office only accepts cash. We do not take credit card, Visa, or checks. There is another agency that we share office space with, and those fees, no call, no show, and the Visa card, that all applies to that agency. If you have any questions after you've watched this video, we do ask that you ask any one of the intake counselors. Thank you and welcome to New Direction.